We're talking about how to start an LLC in Tennessee, and what you can see here is a checklist that we're going to be running through on exactly how to do this to make it really easy for you. But this first drop down right here is the most important part of this video, is the idea that there are pitfalls that you can run into with your LLC that make it so it doesn't do what it's supposed to do for you, which is to limit your liability. Now that happens when this LLC dumpster fire, I'm calling it, happens when you don't understand terms such as piercing the corporate veil, registered agent, commingling funds, pass-through taxation, how the LLC renewal process works, and also business licenses and permits. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit to be able to zoom in on these items. And the zooming out is what an LLC actually does for your business. So that's what we're going to get started with right now. Now, right here in this drop down here, the LLC is a limited liability company, so it offers limited liability protection. And it also offers pass-through taxation, which we're going to explain right now through an example of owning a coffee shop without an LLC. Now, when you have that coffee shop without the LLC, you can see the business owner here in the middle is connected to everything, their personal home, car, bank account, but also the business bank account, point of sale, the actual location, the espresso machine, the lights, everything is connected to this business owner. Now that creates a lot of liability. Now, alternatively, you could own an LLC that owns that coffee shop. Now you can see on the left-hand side here, we have the business owner and they're connected to their personal bank account, personal home, personal car. But on the right-hand side, we have what we're calling Acme Coffee LLC, and that's all those business assets that we just talked about. And then there's a red division in the middle. What that red division is called is the corporate veil. It's really important because what happens is, in the unfortunate circumstances, if you were being sued, somebody suing you is going to hire an attorney. And if you have a proper LLC set up and you have that corporate veil, that division between your personal and business assets, they can only try to come after your business assets. But what that attorney is going to try to do is something called piercing the corporate veil, as you remember up here. I'm going to actually click commingling funds because we're going to talk about that in a second too. So what they can do is they can find a crack in your LLC. Now, let's say that you didn't have a bank account set up day one on your business and you were commingling funds. What that is you are running personal and business transactions through your personal bank account. That is an example of a crack in your LLC, and that attorney suing you is going to present that to the judge, and if the judge agrees, they'll be able to do something called pierce the corporate veil, and this division in the middle between your personal and business assets goes away, and they're going to be able to come after your personal assets in addition to your business assets. So that's why understanding these terms and going through this video series is so important, so that you can not only get your LLC set up, but that you make sure that it's set up correctly so that it helps to limit your liability. Now, what I want to talk about real quickly right here is an explanation of pass-through taxations. This is not something that's necessarily important for setting up your LLC, but it's important when it comes to filing your taxes and understanding how it works. And an LLC is a pass-through taxation entity. It's sometimes called a flow-through taxation. The way that works here is Acme Coffee LLC grossed $140,000. They had $90,000 of expenses and $50,000 of net income. The IRS is not taxing the LLC, they're taxing the individual. That $50,000 in net income passes through, or also called flow-through, tax to the individual, and the IRS is going to be taxing you when it comes to your taxes. Now, I just wanted to make you aware of that because some people don't understand that. It is going to be something that's on your personal tax return. This is actually a Notion doc. It's a living, breathing document. Lots of things on here. You can get this document for yourself. There's going to be a QR code on the screen right now that you can scan, or there's going to be a link in the description below. It's completely free for you. And when you get it, I would suggest that you check out the bonuses and also the glossary of terms. Glossary of terms is helpful if there's anything that's being said in this video that you're unfamiliar with. It's all relating to LLC formation, but the bonuses are really cool. Here you can go and do an AI chatbot that'll help you get going through your setup for your LLC. So let's say, start an LLC in Tennessee. The chatbot's going to give you a list of items that you can consider. And if you're looking at something like, how do I register an EIN, which we are going to talk about in a little bit, it gives you information on that as well. So it's just a really cool resource here for you. There is a yearly accounting calendar. Highly suggest you check that out. Free charitable opportunity in the next video we're going to be talking about so that you can donate $20 to charity. Just a lot of cool stuff in there. Now, what you need to do is decide which route you want to go. When you're getting your LLC set up, there are three paths you can go. You can go through the state website, all right? You can go through online LLC services or tools, they're sometimes referred to as, or you can go through a business attorney. And it really depends on what suits your needs the best. The next video in this series is going to be deep diving on all of this. For this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the state website, but I will tease in ways of like why you may want to consider other routes for you. What I will say is the state website is going to be the cheapest. There's not a lot of upsells. It's just if you want to expedite your processing. But on the con side, there's not a lot of extra features or availabilities. We're going to be getting into registered agents in a minute. They don't provide you with a registered agent. We're going to explain that through this process. So let's say that you need to now decide on your business name for your LLC. What I'll say here is that a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves for coming up with the perfect LLC name. The LLC name doesn't have to be the brand name. Like you could be Acme Coffee LLC and then have a DBA, doing business as, or a fictitious business name underneath it. And that kind of acts as your brand name. You could have Espresso Yourself Cafe or something like that, right? So when you're coming up with the LLC name, the thing that does matter is it needs to be unique. So once you have a name, we're going to search the state directory list, and then we're going to go down to Tennessee. And then what you do here is you search your name. Now, let's say you put in something like Titans, right? Now, you already have the Nashville Titans. So this is going to be something that is going to be taken in the state of Tennessee. So you don't want to see a name like that pop up. But if I just kind of hit the keyboard a few times and hit search, now what you're going to see is no matches found. That is what you want to see when you're searching for your LLC name, that name is not already taken in the state database. What you do next is actually form your LLC. Now, there is a half step that you can take, which is registering your LLC name. And then what you do next is write your articles of organization. The articles of organization is the actual document that you fill out that sets up your LLC with the state of Tennessee. Now, if you're not ready to go through that process and you don't want to fully commit to getting your LLC set up, you can actually register your LLC name before you file your articles of organization. The best example of this I can give is if you're like getting a website set up. You may buy a domain name, but you don't have the time or resources yet to actually build out the website, but you want to secure that domain name. That's what you're doing when you're registering your LLC name. Most people are going to do all of this in one process, and they're going to do this by going to the state directory here. And again, this lays out what goes into your articles of organization, but we're going to look at Tennessee again, and then this is it right here. Why don't we go through this a little bit? Now, there's a couple different paths you can go. You can see there's this e-file, so that's if you want to go online and do it that way. You can also print this up and mail it in, or you can do a paper submission, or you can do a walk-in. Most people are going to go with the e-file route, but what I want to do is actually just go over different aspects of this so that you have a better understanding of what's being filled out. Now, as we scroll down to the points where we're filling things out, you can see the filing fee is $50 per member here. So there's no way of getting around that. If you're setting up your LLC in Tennessee, you're going to pay that if you go through an attorney, an online legal tool, or the state. That is the $50 filing fee to the Secretary of State. So you're going to put in your name that you've arrived at. Name consent. This entity name already exists in Tennessee and has received name consent from the existing entity. Most likely, you're not going to be doing that. This company has the additional designation of the name and complete address of the limited liability company, fiscal year close month. Most people are doing that for December, right? You're running on a calendar year. Some people do a fiscal year, which is different, which may run different from the calendar year. The effective upon filing date, most people are just putting the date that you're doing this, right? Sometimes some people want it put out into the future. Examples where you might want to do that, it's like early December, and maybe you want this to be filed in January 1 because you don't want to have an extra year of owning the LLC. Because we do talk about in future videos about how you renew LLCs, and we'll get to that in this video series. But the number of members at date of filing, period of duration, most people are going to do perpetual, assuming that you're not shutting this down immediately. The company address. Name of the liability, the company address again. But I do want to go back and just highlight that this section here, number 4, is actually for the registered agent and office located in the state of Tennessee. Now, a lot of times when you're using the state website, they don't really give you additional details or help on this. And you may be wondering like, well, what is a registered agent? What do they do for the LLC? The registered agent is a third party that handles important communication and documentation for your LLC. And let's go back to the example of a coffee shop. Let's say you're being sued. You're going to get something called a service of process notice. That is the actual document that is sent to you that's like, hey, you need to go to court. You're being sued. That registered agent is going to handle that documentation, make sure you get that, and make sure that you have all the documents you need when you're going to court. So it's a really important role. And the two requirements is that the registered agent must be located in your state, and it cannot be a P.O. box. So it needs a physical mailing address within the state of Tennessee. Now, here they just have you kind of fill out, who is that person, give us their information. When you use online LLC services, they all actually provide for an additional fee a registered agent. And one of them, which we're going to cover in the next video, actually provides that for free for the first year. So that's where you start to see like there's a lot of ease and convenience of going with the online legal tools, because they will provide these additional features for you for free, as opposed to when you go through the state website, you get a little bit confused. You're like, I'm not sure what I should do from a registered agent. That's why a lot of times I prefer the online legal tools. Now, once you get this all filled out and you mail it in or drop it off, or you go through the e-file route, what we need to do next is we file the articles of organization. You may want to create and sign an LLC operating agreement. Now, there are only 5 states that require this when you're getting your LLC set up, and Tennessee is not one of them. So you technically do not need an operating agreement as of making this video in 2024, but it's always a good idea. What it does is it basically spells out who are the members of the LLC, what are their roles and responsibilities, but also what happens if somebody wants to exit the LLC. Let's say that coffee shop you have a business partner with you, you end up like having like 12 locations, you're doing great, and your business partner one day decides that they want out of the business. Well, that can be a very lengthy, it's a hard word to say for me, and costly situation when you're trying to go through litigation, because they're going to hire attorneys and you guys are just going to litigate back and forth, and it can be very expensive. If that's all spelled out in the operating agreement day one, or even, a few months in, it becomes a lot easier. And this is one of those situations where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So highly suggest you go that way. There are like boilerplate templates online. Those LLC legal tools have those available for you, or you can go through a business attorney if you do have a business partner, because sometimes that's a little bit more complicated. After the LLC formation, you still need to set up an EIN. There's an IRS link here. What the EIN is an employment identification number. It's like a social security number for your business. It's a way for the IRS to identify your business. The reason that you need that is, let's say that you end up getting staff on payroll, you're going to need an EIN for that. And also other things like if you're applying for a business loan or insurance or a business bank account, it just looks more professional if you're supplying the person an EIN as opposed to your social security number. This is free to do on the IRS website. The state websites will not help you out with this because it's a federal IRS website. The online LLC services out there that are available to you, they will all help you set up your EIN as well. Next, what we want to do is obtain business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a really helpful SBA resource here that you can actually go down and you can click this and go to Tennessee, and I'll get a little bit more granular on this. But what I'll say is the easiest way to explain this is through an example of owning a brewery. Now, if you own a brewery, you might be brewing beer, distributing beer, and serving beer at the location. Those can require different licenses and permits for those different business activities, and then those can be required on a federal level, the state level, and local government level. So your actual town or city that you live in, that the brewery is located in, may require licenses and permits, where the state may require them federally. Other businesses will require this, where it's like, let's say you're a chiropractor, a dentist, maybe you're opening up a construction company. These are typical examples of where you could use this, but a lot of companies don't require it. What I would suggest is you can call your local town clerk and start there and say, hey, I'm opening up, a coffee shop. Is there anything I need to know as far as licenses and permits? And they can potentially help you with the state website, trying to navigate that. But when you do use the online legal tools, they actually have it for an additional fee. A lot of them will have research where they'll handle this for you and help you get these set up as well. What we're going to be talking about in the next video is we're specifically going to be talking about the difference between state online tools and attorneys for setting up your LLC. And I'll tease really quick here. We actually have embedded in this document a cost calculator, which gives you down to the dollar what it's going to cost you to own your LLC in Tennessee. We're going to go over these star ratings and where these come from, comparing the different tools and services available to you. We're also going to talk about why the state website can become a pain when it comes to domestic and foreign LLCs, and we're going to explain what that is specifically. And then we're going to deep dive on all these questions worth asking. Is basically, this is geared towards like, should you hire an attorney to help you set your LLC set up? And that can be in situations where you're like using your LLC to buy rental property, or questions like that you should consider when it gets a little bit more nuanced. So again, what I would recommend is get this checklist for yourself so you can follow along easily. And then what I'll do is I'll catch you in this next video where we're going to deep dive on which path you should take when you're getting your LLC set up. I'll catch you in the next video.